Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Of course, don't forget, we missed the first few people on Substack. But anyhow, how are my peeps doing? Numero uno, the first person that made it to the program today is the one and only, as usual, El Señor AVQ from Brooklyn, New York. Michael Ruddin, welcome aboard. We also have in the house, Bruce Pollard says, Happy New Year to everyone. May it be a good New Year, starting with peace. All right, I like that. Starting with peace. Hey guys, tell me if you see a little jerk in the video somewhat, because I'm seeing an artifact here that I'm not liking. I hope it doesn't mean that we're going to eventually have a little crash. I had to rush here to get this done, but hey, we're done, and we're going to try to keep it smooth so that we hopefully won't crash. Anyway, welcome aboard. J. Ray says, roar. Hey, I haven't seen J. Ray in a long time. Jay, where have you been, my brother? Paul Fleming from J. Ray's from Houston, Texas. Bruce is from Atascocita. No, it's from Kingwood, Texas. We also have Paul Fleming in from Powder Springs, Georgia. Eric Hayes from Atascocita, Kingwood. Welcome aboard, my dear brothers and sisters. And Margaret Rand is in the house. Good afternoon, Margaret. Old guy pissed. Don't be pissed. Take action. And that's what we're doing here. That is what we're doing. We're taking action, right, Margaret Ryan? Is that what we're going to do? Take action? You betcha that's what we're going to do. Take action. Louis Rabinowitz, welcome aboard. We also have Alan Thornton, Kirsten Provost. Thank you for being here. All right, let's get started. Today was a day that I can genuinely say the speech that Donald Trump gave at the UN was likely the worst international speech I have ever seen in my very long life. It was the most unprofessional, the most self-serving, the most Hitleresque speech subliminally that I have yet to see in my life. Before I go on to videos, had Article 25. I know, Margaret, it's about that time. It's about the guy. Look, I wrote while I'm watching the speech, right? Let me see if I can find that tweet. I wrote a couple of tweets, and it is funny because I got a call from a friend, and I'm talking, and it's like, oh my God, this cannot be real. This cannot be real. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I want to find a damn tweet. Where did I put that tweet? You know, sometimes you do these tweets and you can't remember where you put it, right? But I think I'm going to find it now. I put out there, let's see, what did I say? Anyway, I can't find the darn tweet. Anyway, but it was, sorry about that. It was a shame. And I think he made our country look like a whole bunch of fools. That's what our president did for us today. And I don't know. I tell you what, let me just go ahead and play this, and then we'll move on from here. We'll get into the rest of the program. Center of Addiction and Faith, welcome aboard, as well as Patricia Shipstead, Sharon Thames, welcome aboard as well. Michael, Peter, Kane, Ella, Rosemary, thank you all for being here. I want you to listen to this. And please, guys, that I got about an 8-minute piece of his speech, but I didn't want to cut it up. It is important that you hear that because we're going to talk about it afterwards. Okay, check this out. Donald Trump continues to be an embarrassment. He appeared at the UN today, and the rambling speech that he gave was embarrassing. He showed that he is he's not in mental decline. He's already mentally declined. Moreover, it has showed that he cannot keep any sort of cohesive message, and he was all over the place. But one of the things that it shows is that he is, in fact, somebody who is a white nationalist. But above and beyond that, his stance on climate could never be clearer as far as what he intends to do. And he points out that in America, he will not allow the green energy industry to flourish. It's not going to happen. And he attacked, he embarrassed foreign countries who've invested in that. I want you to listen. And by the way, he called climate change a hoax. He called as well green energy a scam. I want you, it's funny coming from the biggest scammer there is, right? But anyhow, I want you to listen to this and we'll take it on the other side.
They've given up their powerful edge, a lot of the countries that we're talking about in oil and gas, such as essentially closing the great North Sea oil. Oh, the North Sea, I know it so well. Aberdeen was the oil capital of Europe, and there's tremendous oil that hasn't been found in the North Sea. Tremendous oil. And I was with the prime minister I respect and like a lot, and I said, you're sitting with the greatest asset. They essentially closed it by making it so highly taxed that no developer, no oil company can go there. They have tremendous oil left, and more importantly, they have tremendous oil that hasn't even been found yet. And what a tremendous asset for the United Kingdom. And I hope the Prime Minister is listening, because I told it to him 3 days in a row. That's all he heard. North Sea oil, North Sea, because I want to see them do well. I want to stop seeing them ruining that beautiful Scottish and English countryside with windmills and massive solar panels that go 7 miles by 7 miles, taking away farmland. But we're not letting this happen in America. In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible, as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening. You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler. So now they could just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things, you know. They actually said during the campaign, they had a hat, the best-selling hat. Trump was right about everything. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything. And I'm telling you that if you don't get away from the green energy scam, your country is going to fail. And if you don't stop people that you've never seen before, that you have nothing in common with, your country is going to fail. I'm the president of the United States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage. They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy catastrophe before it's too late. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. It's a con job. At extreme cost and expense, Europe reduced its own carbon footprint by 37%. Think of that. Congratulations, Europe. Great job. You cost yourself a lot of jobs, a lot of factories closed, but you reduced the carbon footprint by 37%. However, for all of that sacrifice and much more, it's been totally wiped out and then some by a global increase of 54%. Much of it coming from China and other countries that are thriving around China, which now produces more CO2 than all the other developed nations in the world. So all of these countries are working so hard on the carbon footprint, which is nonsense, by the way. It's nonsense. You know, it's interesting. In the United States, we have still radicalized environmentalists, and they want the factories to stop. Everything should stop. No more cows. We don't want cows anymore. I guess they want to kill all the cows. They want to do things that are just unbelievable. And you have it too. But you know, we have a border strong, and we have a shape, and that shape doesn't just go straight up. That shape is amorphous when it comes to the atmosphere. And if we had the most clean air, and I think we do, we have very clean air. We have the cleanest air we've had in many, many years. But the problem is that other countries, like China, which has air that's a little bit rough, it blows. And no matter what you're doing down here, the air up here tends to get very dirty because it comes in from other countries where their air isn't so clean. And the environmentalists refuse to acknowledge that. The whole thing is crazy. The primary effect of these brutal green energy policies has not been to help the environment, but to redistribute manufacturing and industrial activity from developed countries that follow the insane rules that are put down to polluting countries that break the rules and are making a fortune. They're making a fortune. European electricity bills are now 4 to 5 times more expensive than those in China, and 2 to 3 times higher than the United States. And our bills are coming way down. You probably see that our gasoline prices are way down. You know, we have an expression, drill, baby, drill. And that's what we're doing. We're going to be much lower in a year from now. But they've come way down over the last year. As a result, every air conditioner is like very uncommon to see one in some of these countries because the electric costs are so high.
I want to pick up on something first. I want to get a few things out of the way. When he criticized Europe for having energy, dropping carbon consumption or carbon output by 37%, while the rest of the world increases by 50-something%, it's misleading. When he tries to make it seem like we are offloading, that these other countries that are now producing more carbon in the air is such a bad thing. It is, but as if it's done on purpose or whatever. Let's clear a few things up. America decided to offshore its manufacturing. Had America not offshored its manufacturing, a lot of the energy used for the vast amount of products that enter this country, manufactured overseas, all of that carbon thrown into the air would have been generated in America. So while we are taking kudos for reducing our carbon footprint, the reality is all we did was offshore our carbon footprint with all the things that are manufactured for us. Secondly, if we look at who should pay for the carbon in the air, let's remember something. During the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, it's the Western countries, all that carbon that is permanently in the atmosphere right now. It is America and Western countries en masse that have put most of that in the atmosphere. So when people start talking about, well, how comes we have to reduce by so much and these other countries don't? Well, that's because most of what's up there, we put it there. We made profits. We extended our economy. We made ourselves great by polluting the air that belongs to everybody. So if we don't want others to do the same that we've done, which affects us all, we have to pay the price. This isn't rocket science. This is morality, and this is green energy, whatever the case is. The fact of the matter is our president embarrassed us. If you listen to the entire speech, you will be appalled. He is pushing genocide in a manner that you would not imagine. Again, subliminally, of course, but you listen to the speech. He sounds like somebody operating out of 1932. And I figure you know what I'm talking about. Absolutely so. My God, it is hard to believe. It is. Anyway, does anybody want to make any mention about before I go on to the next subject? Because this just, as I'm watching this, I just couldn't believe he was doing this on a national stage. The other thing that he did during that entire fiasco is he really hit Europe hard on immigration. In effect, he was getting them carte blanche to become to do exactly what he's doing, violent deportation. And he's telling them, if people are coming to your country that don't look like you, don't act like you, don't think like you, get rid of them. In effect, that is what he was telling folks. I want you guys to take a look at it in the aggregate. Anyway, let's see. Michael Rudden said something that I want to touch, but I'll tell you what, let me go up to the top of these things. Welcome aboard, John Cotter. How are you doing, my dear brother? Where are you today? John Cotter, fly those big birds. Anyway, let's see who else we got here. From E2247, Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal voted against a joint resolution of disapproval that would have blocked a sale of 20,000 M4 automatic rifles to the Israeli National Police. Wow. He voted against joint resolution of that's a damn shame. Let's see what else we got here. Senator Maggie Hassan and Richard Blumenthal cancel meetings with citizens opposing Israeli genocide in Palestine in favor of their state's weapon. Oh boy. If Democrats want to understand why even as Republicans are doing as badly as they are, that they're not improving in the realm, in the feelings of the rest of the country, it's for that reason. Too many Democrats they really don't have democratic values. Too many Democrats don't have democratic values. I mean, if you watch the former vice president on Rachel Maddow last night, somebody asked me on the morning show this morning, why is it that, what did I think about the interview? And I said, I was kind of disappointed in Rachel. I thought Rachel could have done a lot more and got a lot deeper with the vice president. What do you mean? Well, the vice president got $1.2 billion, right? I would have been ready to ask her, for the people that didn't come out and vote, where were they? Where were the people that didn't come out and vote? And what did your team do to get them out to vote? Because remember, what Donald Trump did wasn't no great feat. What was actually done is Democrats didn't show up to vote. Had they just voted the same as they did under Biden, she would have won. So, but the thing that got me from her interview, Rachel asked a simple question. Do you support Mandami? That was a softball. All you had to say is, absolutely so. Yes. How did she answer? Well, I support whoever the Democratic nominee is, put in a caveat onto it. And in doing so, making it a story. Imagine this. Rachel asks you, she asks, are you endorsing Mandami? Simple answer, yes. Okay, we move on. Well, why aren't you? if Rachel wanted to take it a bit further because of all the how they want to characterize him, all she had to say is, of course I endorse Mandami. He is the person who won the Democratic nomination. Punto y final. That's what we do in the Democratic Party. When Bernie was running, right, and Bernie lost, you had a few people that they weren't going to vote for Hillary or anything like that, and the establishment said what the Democratic Party stands for is whoever comes out of the primaries is the Democratic candidate, and you vote for the Democratic candidate. It's not difficult. That's who the people chose. And they didn't choose Mandami by a little bit. They chose Mandami by a lot. It's not difficult. Well, he's a democratic socialist. All right, what policies does Mandami support that you don't, Miss Vice President? I don't think she could name one. You see, the problem is this, and I'm going to tell you what happens with the establishment Democratic Party. And I am not at KPFT, so I am not a 501c3 here. So I can say whatever the hell I want to say. At KPFT as a 501c3, I have to be careful on my political answers, but I don't have to do it here. Let me explain. Every Democrat morally believes absolutely everything that Mandami stands for. I repeat this. Every single real Democrat supports everything Zoran Mandami stands for. Right? Or they're supposed to. The only reason they don't is if they're not a real Democrat. If they are using the Democratic Party as a shield to be a moderately right person, that is what they are. And every single Democrat right now that had any hesitation to vote for Mandami, that is what we're looking at here. Because like I ask everybody, please name me the policy Mandami stands for that you don't. Anybody who disagrees with me on Substack, anybody disagrees with me in the chat, please let me know. I want to know. And please feel free to call in 281-823-7747. I repeat, 281-823-7747. If you disagree and with that. And then the other thing that I'd like to find out from anybody listening right now is what policy of Mamdani do you not agree with as a Democrat, or for that matter, as a Republican? I would like to know what that is. You see, because what the Powell memo did to us, right, is it made us believe that policies that support people, support us all, are somehow policies that, they just frame it as socialist. And then everybody run away. They run away from a word, not understanding what the word means. So again, to my brothers and sisters that are listening everywhere before I move on, please tell me where I erred. What policy of Mandami do you not support? Let's hear it, and then we can move on from there. But in the interim, I want to talk a little bit, since nobody's calling right now, I want to talk a little bit about TikTok. Have you noticed that, remember how TikTok was supposed to go away? Remember that TikTok was a clear and present danger? You remember that TikTok was a problem? Let's see. John Carter says, with 100%, I support Mandami's position. There you go. That's my brother. Exactly right, sir. Exactly right, from John Carter. Now, let's say rent control will not be good for business and grocery store thing will fail. I tell you what, before I go into that, Lee the Bearcat says, and I want him to think this through. He said the following: our new health policies. I'll talk about that in a little bit then, Bruce. Absolutely. This show belongs to you all. Lee the Bearcat says rent control will not be good for business and grocery store thing that will fail. Okay, let's go ahead and take that to the next step, Lee the Bearcat. Let me take it to the next step. Right now, if you go into certain parts of Brooklyn, and I'm pretty sure that my brother in Brooklyn here, Michael Rodden, can tell you, you cannot find a grocery store that has good fresh fruits in walking distances at good pricing, etc. You have to go to these abarroterias. That's what we call them in Panama, where you go ahead and you buy things, little things here and there. I was in Brooklyn to visit my uncle about 6-7 years ago. Okay. And that's what I found astounding. So the capitalist market does not feel they have enough interest in parts of Brooklyn, parts of the Bronx, and these other parts of New York to put stores like Safeway or Kroger or H-E-B or any one of these stores to serve these people. What is the government supposed to do? Help us all. It's supposed to create an environment for all of us that is healthy, and that's what it's supposed to do. The private sector chose not to put grocery stores in these areas, create food deserts. So Mandami comes along and says, I am going to serve my constituents. And how am I going to serve them? I will put a grocery store in there. Government run because nobody else wants to do it. Well, if a nonprofit wants to run it, so be it, whatever. And you look at that, Mr. Bearcat, because you were so indoctrinated by the capitalist who makes you believe if somebody who is privately owned is not going to make a profit off of your skin, that you can't do something good for somebody. That's what you have learned. Okay? So why would you say it'll fail? There ain't any right now. So failure is not a part of the equation, Mr. Bearcat. There are none of them there now. Failure is not a part of the equation. He's saying, I'm going to put one in. It's not about making profit. It's about serving the people. Can't you get that? It's about serving the people, giving them the options to have a life where they can be nutritionally sound. So Mandami comes, and that's why he's winning in a landslide. The people say, nobody puts a grocery store here. The private companies that don't want to do it. It's just like the rural people area. They don't want government control, but the private sector won't build internet out in the rural areas. And when the government says, I am going to do it, the private companies say, hey, socialism. Well, you didn't do it. So the government picks up where you failed. And these companies failed whenever they can't do it. Now, when it comes to rent control, okay, where the hell are these people supposed to live? If you don't control the prices of rent, where are they supposed to live? If the private sector gets out of whack because they have pricing power, if they decide they are going to price, they can maximize how much money they make by increasing the price and keep their buildings half empty. That's how capitalism works. Okay, it is ridiculous. So, my friends, don't be fooled by the term socialism. Don't be fooled by all of that. If the private sector fails, it is the responsibility of government to take up the slack. And to put it bluntly, there are certain parts of government that shouldn't even give the opportunity, because we, the people, shouldn't give the opportunity to certain areas of the private, of certain areas of our social being. We should not give it the opportunity to the private sector in some areas. And the good areas are healthcare, which is one of the things that Bruce Pollard wants me to talk about. All right, so let's go to healthcare. The government doesn't belong in healthcare. And you know who's going to find that out? A lot of rural people are going to find that out pretty soon. Yesterday, in Virginia, a state that elected a Republican governor, and this has nothing to do with the Republican governor, of course, but 3 hospital clinics closed their doors or will be closing their doors. And why? They have said specifically, we are closing our doors because of the big, bad, ugly bill. And it's something that we've been telling you was going to happen in the first place, that these hospitals were going to close. And you know what? They are closing. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. It is just the tip of the iceberg, because math don't lie. You can't take $1 trillion out of a healthcare system and don't see several things: shortages, closures, and firings. And all of that is going to happen. All of that is going to happen. But I digress a minute here, because I want to show you what non-critical thinking is about. And Lee, the Bearcat, I'm putting you on the spot. Lee says, examples of failures: Baldwin, Florida. The city purchased a local grocery store to fill a void left by a previous closure, but the government-run store operated at a loss and closed within 5 years. Let's break right there. If the government store operated at a loss, so what? If nobody is going to put, and this is where I tell you, you got to think out of a box. All we have been taught in a capitalist society is that there must be a profit. It doesn't have to be a profit. The street that goes to that grocery store, there's no profit made there, specifically to that street. But let me tell you where the profit is made, Mr. Lee the Bearcat. Here is how the profit is made. There is an area without a grocery store. The government takes over or put a grocery store in and make sure that the prices of that food in that grocery store is comparable with having a grocery store that person would have normally gone to. The prices comparable. The difference is now is that the people in the vicinity, they no longer have to drive 10, 15, 20 miles to a grocery store. So they got savings from not having to go to that grocery store. They have to spend less time hunting for grocery because of that government store. That government store didn't make a profit is immaterial. The store does not have to make a profit. It just needs to be comparable pricing with where the people would have otherwise shopped. Why am I saying that? You don't want the prices to be below so that now that grocery store is competing with, let's say, that private store necessarily. But you want the prices to be comparable so that these people don't have to leave the vicinity. They save time. They save energy bills. But not only do they save that, they can also spend more time with their families. They can also be more on time on their jobs. So altogether, while the government may lose a few dollars in the transaction, the quality of life that these people get would be improved. Just like the quality of life of the wealthy person who uses our air traffic controller without paying for it at a loss to us is doing things. But you see, you have been taught that the wealthy deserves welfare, the welfare to be happy, the welfare of economics, but the middle class person does not. The poor does not deserve it. But you don't have a problem for the wealthy getting it. And you know who sees that? Mandami. Mandami sees that. The biggest welfare in this country goes to the people who manufacture arms. I don't see any of you MAGA folks complaining about that. That we spend $1 million for a missile that costs about $10,000. Have you complained about that? And you're going to complain about a grocery store? The evil thought that capitalism has manufactured within our mindset it's not only moral decay, that don't only cause moral decay, but it actually takes away from one's humanity. If we put a store that helps people out so that they can get good food and not have medical bills later on because they're eating junk, somehow don't you get it? And that's why I talk about critical thinking. Because the government losing a few dollars on a grocery store may save a life, may save healthcare costs, save on gasoline costs, save all these other things that many of you refuse to or that you want to see. All right. Now, the healthcare, going back to it that Bruce wants me to talk about. As I mentioned, there are several closures that have already started. Virginia has already lost 3 hospitals, 3 clinics. And this is going to multiply itself throughout the country in the next few months, next few years. And it's going to be at a cost that everybody's going to see where they have a hard time finding their doctors, finding and all these. Because let me tell you also, my daughter finished med school. She wasn't able to practice. She's a teacher now because of her 2 strokes. But what a lot of her her friends that she went to college with, many of them, even full-blooded, they are not going to practice. A lot of them have decided this is just too much. They can't deal with the insurance companies. They can't deal with the evil within the system. So they decide to call it in. My daughter didn't call it in. Her stroke called it in. Now a teacher. But I told her, and she's noticing, and like LBW, who just joined us a few minutes ago, it's the most rewarding profession. It's tough. Sometimes the kids give her hell. But when she gets a hug from a kid who tells her, thank you, or when she gets a hug from a kid who said, I feel like you're my second mom, or when she gets a thank you for a kid when they have study after class and have to get some help, when you know you're making a difference, it's magic. It's magic. And you're doing something positive. Unlike what we see in our politics, where somebody will say, the grocery store is not going to make a profit. How evil is that? Rethink, people, rethink. Stop thinking get rid of that indoctrination, please. It's the reason we have income inequality and wealth disparity. It's a reason why a teacher doesn't make the kind of money a stockbroker makes. It's a reason why the people who invent things are not the ones that make money, and the people that least invent are the parasites. Stop being the cog of the parasites. Elon Musk, parasite. Every single billionaire that we've spoken about are parasites. It's hard to accept it, even the good ones. They are following an economic system that have made them parasites. They're not bad people. They're just following the system, and it makes them parasites because all of the blood sucking they've done is on you. The engineer invents, the scientist the engineer creates, the scientist invents, but they're not the ones making the billions. It's the ones who don't do any of that are the parasites. Now, Bruce wants to talk about the vaccines. Yep. Look at what's happening with the vaccines. How do you, well, I don't even know how to hit the vaccine things, because the truth of the matter is the fact that we have allowed a non-medical person and a whole bunch of non-medical people on the committee to decide and make decisions on the vaccines that we are going to put in your body is a sham. The good thing is that we have independent organizations right now that are doing just that. They're replacing what CDC normally does. So, folks, whatever you do, you don't listen to the CDC anymore. You don't listen to HHS anymore, because we have a fraudulent government. LBW says throwing science out the window to make room for conspiracy theories. Insane. Absolutely so. You know, it is amazing. And again, Lee the Bearcat, you do not have to cover all costs because they're recovered in other places. Think outside of the box. They always think outside of the box when it comes to the other subjects that don't concern us. Okay. Anyhow, I think I've covered enough about the healthcare. We'll be covering the healthcare and what's going to happen in the next few weeks with the price that you're going to pay on the exchange and all these issues. We're going to cover that every day. Every day we're going to touch a little bit on that. But suffice it to say, the MAGAs that are listening to me right now, my brothers, let me just say this, and I say this with love, and I mean this to the depths of my heart. Look, you have been screwed. You've been fooled. But please don't try to hold on to your position out of pride, etc. Please don't, because we're all in the same boat. And when those bills start to hit, both for the electric bills in the next few weeks, for the health insurance bills that a lot of you are going to see, those of you that are getting it on the exchange that you're going to see, it's not just these blue liberals and progressives that are going to see that bill. You are as well, and it's going to affect your family. And I don't want that to happen, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I want you to just know when this happens that this is what you voted for. And I'm not going to tell you FAFO. I'm not going to tell you FAFO for all of you who voted against your interests. What I'm going to tell you is work with us. Work with us for the change. Work with us for the change. I'm going to say, look, I've been fooled before. I've had to change before. You can too. There's no shame. In fact, what the shame is if you see how they're screwing you and you continue to try to rationalize it. That makes you an irrational, uncritical thinker. But it's right in front of us right now. Okay? It's right in front of us. Let's get on to the TikTok thing, because as you know, I love TikTok. I know one of my sisters said she didn't like TikTok. Margaret, I think, said she don't like TikTok, or maybe somebody else. I don't remember. Normalize changing your viewpoints with new information. Please use your eyes and common sense. That is correct, LBW. Now, let me tell you a little bit of TikTok. We have different viewpoints because of the way algorithms work, right? If I click on something that attacks MAGA and I scroll up on it and I read and I stay on it for a length of time and then I do it again, TikTok is going to say, he spends a lot of times on this thing, so I can put ads on, since I'm going to have his view, I can put ads on all these things that attack MAGA. So I'm going to see a whole lot of MAGA ads. If I happen to see a lot of, ads with a lot of skin, they'll give me a lot of those. TikToks with a lot, it'll give me a whole lot of that. So what I try to do is I try to watch TikToks from the left and the right and click on it and watch it through and through so that I get a diverse viewpoint of what people are seeing on TikTok. That is how you can effectively use TikTok and not get just fire. In other words, just get the things that you want, right? I would like all of the progressives here. Actually, I would like everybody to do that. But I want the progressives to see why many of our folks in the inside of this think the way that they do. Because their entire experience is predicated by what they see on TikTok, is predicated by what they see on these places, and that's what forms their minds. How do you fix that? I just gave you one option, right? But here's my concern now that TikTok is going to be sold to Ellison, another billionaire parasite, and Dell, another billionaire parasite. And by the way, I knew Dell personally. We went to the same university. One of my side businesses was to build computers. Guess who I used to buy my parts from? Michael Dell. Used to be on Lamar Boulevard in Austin, Texas, PCs Limited. When I found out who this guy was that got all that investment to create his company, I almost passed out. Because I know the guy. This guy wasn't like one of your wizards or anything like that, right? I remember them in your T-shirt in the swap bar. It's amazing. But anyhow, it's important that what we do with these billionaires owning TikTok is understand what they're going to do. Is understand that Donald Trump owns Zuckerberg, as you saw from that dinner where he said, "Did I say what you wanted me to say?" Donald Trump owns Musk, because again, Musk has all those contracts with the government. Don't let that spat on the outside fool you. And now Donald Trump will own Ellison, Dell, and the others by seeding them TikTok. And this is going to be, I rub your shoulder, you rub mine. What do you think is going to happen next year? Next year, the algorithm will change. And suddenly, you are going to start seeing mind-changing TikToks to try to move you from where you are. Okay? And what I'm saying now is we are going to have to be an educated bunch for this next election, but not only an educated bunch. We are going to have to help educate others. We are going to have to personally promote. Like if you're watching this right now, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor right now. If you're watching me live right now on Facebook Live, on TikTok Live, on Instagram Live, on Twitch Live, on Substack Live, do me a favor. If you're on Substack Live, click on that arrow and share this to your notes right now. Please do. I want to set up something here. Share this. All you have to do is click on, if you're on desktop, click on the arrow, share it to your notes. Or if you are on your cell phone, share it to your notes. If you're on Instagram, share it. If you are on Facebook, share it. Let me tell you why I want you to get into that modal. Because the algorithm will share a bit. It won't share a lot. It won't go into the natural feed, right? Because then they'll be caught. They could easily be caught then. So they're going to do it in a calculated way. So we have to learn we have to learn how to prime our sphere of influence. If each of you, when you're watching Politics Done Right, share on every platform that you are watching us on, right? you would get to some in your sphere of influence, and we can materially move that. And if you consider telling others in your sphere of influence, right, we can get that it's not called I always say geometric progression, but that is the incorrect word. It is really it's not logarithmic, it's exponential progression, right? And we can actually Adam, you'd be surprised how big your sphere is. People don't understand how big their sphere of influence really is. It is generally larger than you see. You know when I find that out? The amount of people that watch this stuff off, after the live show, because at 3:00 there are a lot of people that can't see it. They're working, they're doing other things. But anyhow, so folks, we are going to have to be very smart in the way that we move through 2026 to win, because the parasites are going to be doing their job. Donald Trump has bought every single one of our main channels. The reason he held on to TikTok for so long and to make sure that they could get the deal with the algorithms, etc., was for all that he's going to do next. So look, this is going to be a permanent fight. Egberto is an example of a parasite. Really? I doubt if anybody would say that, but you can say it for me. So folks, let's do this. Let's also remember that, like the muckrakers of the 1900s, late 1800s, the progressive muckrakers, we are going to have to use a lot of old techniques as well. We're going to have to remember the old days of email. We're going to have to remember the whole old days of physically talking to your friends on the cell phone and texting them, etc. Carl Cox, no, you don't have to go to Substack for me to mention your name. What happened is you just came in late after I issued them. So forgive me, Carl Cox. I love you, Carl Cox. E2247, I love you too. Who else is in here that I hadn't called your name? Joe from Los Angeles, I don't think I called your name. Mike Cisak, I didn't call your name. I got a lot of names to call. Forgive me. I think I called Bruce. But no, look, brother, I'm sorry for not calling your name. But, I want to call everybody out because I want everybody here. I want you all here. So folks, let's do it. If you're on Substack, by the way, guys, you don't have to be on Substack, Carl, but do go subscribe on Substack so you get the email. You don't have to be a paid subscriber. You can be a free subscriber, but we do need paid subscribers. We need a lot of paid subscribers. We're really behind. But everybody should be, whether you are on all the other channels, please go ahead and sign up for Substack. Go to substack.com, sign up for Egberto Off the Record. You don't have to be a paid subscriber, but I'd like you to be, but you don't have to be. And the reason I'm saying that is because when we send emails out, when we send our newsletters out, we want you to be able to see them, because there's going to be a time that you're not going to get a notification when our YouTube goes up. There's going to be a time you're not going to get even our Substack. I just got a message from somebody that said, hey, I've not been getting your Substack link lately. Well, is there some throttling going on there more? Egberto, better for you to call my name than Ice too. Okay, Carl Cox, Carl, behave yourself, man. Behave yourself. Anyway, we are coming close to the end of the program. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to keep on doing our stuff. I got a lot of stuff that I'm going to be. Remember, it's not only this program, okay? Remember, we do a full program at 6 a.m. and that one is on FM radio. In fact, many of you on our Substack and in our other chats, many of you have called live on air FM 90.1 FM in Houston, and many of you have been heard on air. Remember that. So you can also call us on KPFT 90.1 FM and call us in. You'll be on air there as well. And we also write a whole lot of blogs, not only on Substack, but on EgbertoWillies.com, politicsdoneright.com, dailycoast.com, opednews.com, medium.com, Where else are we? Democraticunderground.com. We're all over the place. Every Twitter, Tumblr, everywhere. And why are we doing this? We don't have the benefit of the mainstream media, so we have to do it ourselves. Common Dreams says, thank you very much, LBW. I also post on Common Dreams. So it is very important that we do that. Anyway, Michael says, Egberto, do you have time to read one last one out? Yeah, I do have time. You've seen to have missed me today. When your government provides a service to the poor to uplift people who are struggling, that is a benefit to the entire region. It is not a matter of profit, but of general welfare, an idea that conservatives want to disregard as if all of them have a pathological hatred of the poor. Egberto, agree that it's a huge benefit to have multiple grocery stores within walking distance, but I don't know what part of the city you visited. I have 10 grocery stores within walking distance from me, and yes, grocery prices are up Kings Highway. And I won't give all the addresses, but I was in near Little Panama or something like that. There are a lot of stores, little stores that the prices are high, not a full-fledged grocery store. That's probably what we're talking about. Okay, guys, I got to get out of here, but I'd like to invite you to become paid subscribers. How do you become a paid subscriber? You can become a paid subscriber by going to our subscribe link or right there on Substack. Let me go ahead and put that out there. It's politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Let me put that out here. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I'm putting it in both chats. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. If you go there and subscribe, paid subscribers get access to all of my books online at the and you see them here, all of my books. Of course, if you want the hard copy, you got to go to, Amazon or something like that. But you can read them all of them. You can read them free of charge if you become a paid subscriber. So please consider doing that. It helps out. It allows me to continue doing this. It allows, like I tell, we're all over, and I spend a lot of time making sure we put our message out all over. You know who does it? That's you doing this. You subsidize the ability for me to do this. So got to get out of here. I want to thank you all for being here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.